I'm sitting here with a East Coast Hall of Famer by the name of Scott McCranels. Many people call him Big Red every now and again. Still a bit of red hair there, mate.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, what did it mean when you got inducted into the East Coast Surfing Hall of Fame?
It meant a lot because it's, a tribute to surfing and over the decades. And my dad was already in it. So at the time, I don't know if it still is true, but we were the only father and son in there. So to be with my dad, that was great.
It's just like Shaq and his kid playing basketball, right?
Yeah.
So go back to competition days. I mean, you were in the amateurs, of course, but your early 80s was a bit of a run. You took on the tour, went out there and had a swing?
Yeah, for 3 full years I did the tour, pretty much 84 to 87. The calendar years were a little different back then. But I gave it a go, and I didn't finish top 16. That's every surfer's goal at the time, so you stay seated. And then eventually I thought, okay, what am I going to do? Keep doing this? So I made a big decision to go back to school and complete my studies and go on to be an orthodontist.
Taking after the old man.
Yep, follow my dad's footsteps.
So of those memories of those 3 years on the tour, what's the most memorable event?
It could go on for hours. It's just the people I met, the experiences. When the opportunity came up, I didn't have a passport.
Wow.
I'd only been to Puerto Rico and Hawaii, and at the time, those were places, even Mexico, you didn't really need a passport as a driver's license. And all of a sudden, I do well in the OP on the East Coast, and I'm ranked, like 12th in the world all of a sudden on the second comp of the year. And they're like, you got to go. So I left school, had to drive to Miami, get a passport in 1 day, and 2 weeks later, I'm in Durban. So it's just like, these days, these kids are groomed from 7 or 8. They're in the juniors. They've won all these titles. They know what they're doing.
Been on US
This
teams.
was like, yeah. This was just like, okay, I got out of my final exams. I'm in the contest. 2 weeks later, I do well. And then 2 weeks after that, I'm in South Africa. And the next 3 years was just a run. So it's nothing planned, but just one thing led to another. Greatest life experience I could have. Australia 8 or 9 times, Japan 8 or 9 times, South Africa once a year. That was 3 years in a row. France, and there's so many stories. And there's one event I went to. It's kind of a personal thing that for me that I was real proud of. It probably didn't mean much to anyone else. It was 1 year at Margaret River, and at the time, Margaret River was on the tour. There's 25 comps a year, totally different.
But in those days, they only went left. No one went right.
That was it. So we're only going left. The right was unheard of. You're not going to surf onto a shallow reef. So we're only going left. So I got to, I think, right before the quarters, and I had Hans Hedemann, and it was 10 to 15 foot Margarets on the left, and I actually won. So to beat a Hawaiian in big waves as a Floridian, South Floridian, little wave.
So that got you in the quarterfinals.
To me, yeah, it got me in, then I lost. So that was like a super proud moment just for me personally, because I beat a Hawaiian in really big surf, and it really didn't mean much in a big scale because you're quarterfinals. It's not like you won the event, but for me, I was like, I made it, Hans Hedemann was a master strategy surfer. That's why he did so well in the comps. He outsmarted most of the people. Super consistent surfing. So to beat someone like him, for me, that was a personal achievement.
Yeah, but at Margaret River, I've experienced there too. I came second to Richard Harvey in the Australian titles, 73. Big lefts, 12 feet lefts. But you had to take that one that came a little deeper with the hook in it.
Yep.
And it was kind of going sideways, to be honest, when you got it, and then it would hook.
If you didn't get the hook, it's just a bowl of whitewater out in the channel. Yes. And you couldn't get one big cut, a big cutback.
Got nothing.
Yeah. So wave selection, it was neat. It was kind of a little benchmark.
Yeah, I mean, I got second riding a 7-4 Eat And I wrote a little bigger board because of my experience in Hawaii. I'm just going to catch the biggest ones. You know, I was on my back end, of course. Richard Harvey was goofy, right? And those were the ones. You had to get that one over here, coming this way, and then it would hook.
I'd say probably the other one for a best member would be the actual event that got me to go on the tour was the OP Pro in Florida, where John Thompson in the semis got me on an interference call. They had just started the whole priority system, and it was kind of not fine-tuned yet. If you dropped it on a wave and you're just on the whitewater, even though you're 100 yards away, you count it as the same wave. Right. Now you have to actually impede the right.
Right.
But I was ahead by like 4 to 5 points in the heat. He got me on interference, outsmarted me with the technicality. Otherwise, I would have been in the final. He did. He took up behind me, put the hands up in the air, called the interference.
We can ask him about that. He's sitting just there.
Yeah, he's sitting right there. It's the first Surf Expo I remember with my father. I was probably 8, 9 years old. It was in Cocoa Beach at a little hotel.
Well,
and Ross Houston he'd rented this little hotel, and each room was a vendor.
Right.
It was a little L-shaped hotel, 2-story. I remember it vividly, walking around the parking lot with my dad.
Yeah.
And that's where it all started. Of course, it's huge.